Section 123, Appendix E. This section is not in the category of a revelation. It is the proceedings and conclusions of a joint council of the First Presidency, Quorum of 12, and the presiding bishopric, which met April 20th, 1894. The council met immediately after the General Conference of 1894, pursuant to the instruction given in paragraph 13 of Section 122. The minutes of this council were first published in the Doctrine and Covenants of 1897. It has been included in all succeeding editions. Joint Council. In compliance with the requirement of paragraph 13 of the revelation received during conference, and by agreement between the quorums affected, the First Presidency, the 12, and the bishopric met in joint council in the editor's room of the Herald office at 9 a.m. Friday, April 20th, 1894. There were present Joseph Smith and W. W. Blair of the First Presidency, Alexander H. Smith, E. C. Briggs, James Caffell, W. H. Kelly, J. H. Lake, J. R. Lambert, Heman C. Smith, looking in the above direction. Church History. Resolved that it is the opinion of this council that there is nothing in the resolution of April 1893 on church history that should in any way interfere with the preparation and publication of an authentic church history by the church. Resolved further that it is the opinion of this council that church history, both ancient and modern, may be freely used as a means of information for what the same may be worth. Discussions in Herald. Whereas there seems to be a demand for a publication that may be a medium for more progressive and controversial articles for the good of the body than can be supplied by the Herald. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Publication be requested to provide for such want as soon as practicable and without injury or interference with the circulation of the Herald. Utah Church. The present attitude of the Utah Church was discussed, and the council informally expressed itself as of the opinion that the ministry should boldly stand as aggressors or defenders everywhere where the questions at issue between the two churches were introduced. The presidency received unmistakable assurance of support in their efforts to 70. From this decision, President W. W. Blair dissented. Doctrinal Tracts. Resolved that the members of the Quorum of 12 and the Presidency be requested to write tracts on such gospel topics as each may select, for the 12 or both jointly, and should labor after such appointment under the direction of the 12, the same as 70s. Resolved further that, being in their own standing as local presidents, they are subject to the direction and counsel of members of both the First Presidency and the 12, whose duty it is to regulate. Resolve further that when a necessity occurs for changing men or placing new men in the field between conferences to meet special exigencies, those making the appointment should notify the ministers in charge of the fields affected, if practicable, so as to avoid irregularity or possible conflict. Gospel Boat. Resolved as the opinion of this joint council that Brother E. L. Kelly should proceed to San Francisco at the earliest possible time and secure the proposed boat for the Society Islands. Detroit Branch. Resolved that we advise that the colored members in Detroit, Michigan, be organized in a separate branch as soon as practicable. Bishops' Council. After some deliberation, the consensus of opinion of the council was secured to the effect that the words "the bishop and his council," found in paragraph 6 of the Revelation of 1894, mean the bishop and his two counselors, and a vote obtained in support of such understanding. Presidents of High Council. The following was adopted by regular vote. It is our opinion that the counselors referred to in paragraph 6, section 99, are the counselors of the president in the presidency of the church, but whether or not under certain circumstances the president would not be privileged to call others to assist him is a query. Council to be honored. Resolved that it is the opinion of this council that the statements found in paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 of the Revelation of 1894 should be understood in the same sense as paragraph 3 of the Revelation of 1882 and paragraph 4 of the Revelation of 1890. and that it is the duty of the saints to honor more fully the counsel and advice of the First Presidency, the 12, and the 70 in spiritual things. Presidency of the 12 and meaning of the word abroad. Adopted as the opinion of this joint council. As a traveling presiding council, your quorum has the active supervision and presidency under the First Presidency over the entire field of ministerial labor, and control over districts, branches, and the ministry as a whole and as church organizations, and not as local presiding officers in these several organizations, holding special local presidency where no organization has been perfected, in a similar way as the First Presidency presides over the whole church, differing in this that the First Presidency is necessarily local, while your province is not localized. Nor do we mean by this that the word abroad is to be construed to mean foreign lands, but in the field of itinerant gospel labor everywhere, as contradistinguished from branch, district, or other local organizations. Revelation of 1861. Resolved that paragraph 5 of the Revelation of April 15, 1894, relating to the duty of the 12 under the authority of the Revelation of 1861, Doctrine and Covenants, section 114, teaches that said revelation is still in force, but that whatever duty the 12 might have felt rested upon them in looking after the disbursements of the monies in the treasury or the management of the properties of the church, more than what is set forth in the agreement between the 12 and the bishopric, as effected in April 1878 and reaffirmed in April 1888, or indicated in the Revelation of April 1894. They are now absolved from, the end designed by it having been reached. Request for articles for publication. The Herald editors were, by vote, advised to call for articles from any who might be disposed to write upon leading gospel topics, said articles to be subjected to the inspection of the committee as heretofore named, and to be accepted or rejected at its discretion. It was then ordered that the President and Secretary of the Council prepare the minutes of proceedings for publication in the Herald. The special business of the council having ended, Brother James Caffel expressed a desire that the usual custom of setting foreign missionaries apart by laying on of hands and blessings be observed in his behalf, as he had been appointed to labor in Europe. The council then knelt and was led in prayer by President Joseph Smith, who earnestly invoked the divine blessing upon Brother Caffel and his labors, after which Brethren Joseph Smith, W. W. Blair, A. H. Smith, and E. L. Kelly laid their hands upon him and set him apart, President W. W. Blair being mouth in supplication. The Spirit of the Master fell upon those present, and the service and season was one of joyful solemnity and peace. Redeemer of Israel was then sung, and the benediction pronounced by President Joseph Smith. Thus ended the work of the council, convened in accordance with the requirement of the revelation which had been formally accepted by the church. All present were convinced that the appointment had been wisely made, and that the results were and would be such as would fully attest the divinity of the call. The sessions continued until the afternoon of the 25th, adjournment being had about 4 o'clock. Brother Gomer T. Griffiths was excused and left for home on the 23rd, and Brother E. A. Blakesley at noon on the 25th. Brother Joseph Luff was then chosen secretary for the closing session. To God, whose hand has led us, and whose patience had borne with our infirmities, the generous praise of his church is due. May our renewed consecration under the better conditions his mercy has brought about bring to him added glory, and to his church prosperity and peace. Joseph Smith, President. Joseph Luff, Secretary.